Hello and welcome to the 300th episode of the Boro Breakdown Podcast. 3-0 for the big 300 as Boro bounced back from a rather disappointing midweek cup defeat to Doncaster in quite some style against Millwall. And I'm delighted to be joined by Tom and Matt to discuss it all. Guys, let's kick things off with the usual first point of the pod, our key takeouts from the game. Tom, do you want to kick us off with what your one key takeout is from this week?
Yeah, I mean, it was a much-needed rebound after Tuesday night, and I don't think anyone could have seen it coming like that and that sort of scoreline. I think, understandably, the mood after Tuesday, and I think this probably goes back to Boro last season as well. Everyone was kind of like losing their minds a little bit over it. I know I definitely was. I'd have been fuming if I'd gone on Tuesday after driving back from work for it. But yeah, I could understand it, and I could understand the nervousness going into this game. First 20 minutes or so, it was pretty much all Millwall, wasn't it? And they had a couple of decent chances. I was thinking, God, what's this one going to be like? But I think this game, more than anything, I mean, it showcased the bounce back ability and resilience of the players for sure. But I think what it also showcased was the ability of our coaching staff to change stuff on the fly. I feel like we saw it early in the first half where Hackney, who started in one of the 10 positions, dropped deeper and started helping out in centre midfield. And I think it all just kind of clicked into place from there. And then, changes throughout the game and stuff. I think that's a real positive. And considering what we would often complain about last season in regards to, Carrick being reactive and stuff like that, it was such a refreshing watch to see changes being made proactively, but then also in the post-match interview having explanations as to why they were made, which I think a lot of people could have understood before that. And if it hadn't been said, yeah, we'd have probably speculated on the reasons why. That was so refreshing to me today. And ultimately, like I said at the start, it was a much-needed win. And I saw something earlier. It's our best start to a season in 31 years, which is kind of depressing. We've not kind of bettered anything in 31 years, but that is, as starts to seasons go, exactly what you want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, what's your key takeout from the week?
Yeah, just wasn't delighted with the response. Tuesday was a really alarming night, and I think a lot of the pre-season worries definitely come flooding back for a lot of fans. And you look ahead to a game like Millwall and the good feeling around that club, and just going to the Den at any time is tough, especially their first home game of the season. It felt like it was the worst possible follow-up game that Boro could have, really. But to come out of it with a win such as that was so unexpected, but so great to see. And I second everything Tom said there in regards to seeing how not only from game to game the team was able to bounce back, how they were able to respond, but how they did it in game as well. Because the first half was difficult and I felt like we played into their hands. I think Edwards alluded to it himself. So to recognise that, move Hackney into midfield, change it up at the top of the pitch, and to see the benefits and to see all of the substitutes have a real impact on the game as well. It was just good to see that. So Edwards deserves immense praise for getting the team, getting their heads back in the game and pulling out a performance like that. He also deserves immense credit for making the changes necessary, as do the players for delivering on the pitch as well. And it really showed, I guess, what this team is capable of doing. And it was also really good too to actually have options coming off the bench that were really good options as well. Good options, Dawn, to make a nice reference.
I was waiting for that.
So yeah, over the moon, delighted. And if you'd have told me before a ball was kicked that we'd have 6 points after the first two games, given all the transition and all the change, 2 clean sheets as well, I would never have believed you. So yeah, I'm buzzing.
Yeah, I think my key takeout is that from the whole week, we've probably seen Boro on both sides of the coin, because we were terrible against Doncaster, and that doesn't change despite the result today. But today, my God, that was really good from Boro. I really, really enjoyed that. I hope that we can see that more often. As we point to the title of this podcast, that is more like it. So yeah, two sides of the coin from Boro this week, but I'm really glad that we could come on here and talk about that victory over Millwall, because I was really impressed with that. Which leads us on to Millwall. We won't talk about Doncaster too much because it is a bit of a mood killer. I know that it happened, but we'll probably touch on it a little bit, but we won't really dedicate too much time to it. But Boro did bounce back from midweek defeat against newly promoted Doncaster with a 3-0 victory over Millwall. Goals from Hackney, Jones and Bergzorg made it 2 wins from 2 to start the championship season. As Tom mentioned, the first time they've managed that in 31 years. Guys, what did you make of that performance?
I just didn't see it coming, to be honest. Obviously, like I said, Millwall dominated the early part of the game, and then it slowly started to go in our favour. And by the time we got to half-time, I was like, yeah, this could go either way. Wouldn't be, averse to another 1-0 win off a set piece. Like, that'd be fine. Last week, I mentioned after the Swansea game, positive, but there was a lot of stuff to work on. And I think that was really highlighted against Doncaster, because it was even more kind of disjointed going forward. And, we made mistakes at the back and stuff like that. I didn't expect it to be put right so emphatically in one game. I thought when I highlighted the stuff going forwards last week, I was like, it's going to get better, but it's going to take, 6 or 7 games. I think we started growing into it. First half of the first half, second half, and I think this is something that we might see from Boro a lot more going forward. We look like a fired up team coming out, and some of the build up play in the second half. Like, I've just rewatched the first goal again before we started, and I don't think in terms of the build-up it was as good, but I was getting kind of flashbacks to the other bit, the Karanka goal against Millwall at the Riverside with, Tomlin's like flicking.
Yes.
Like you look at the build-up there, it comes from like such a tight space on the right-hand side into Hansen, who goes with that turn, then it goes to Whittaker across, and Hackney finishes. I was like, where the hell did that come from? And then from there, it just kind of, it looked like it was all. I mean, we got a little bit lucky, and I don't think Josh Coburn's ever going to be as unlucky with his header that hit both posts and went out. But we played really, really well in the second half. And as I mentioned earlier, I think the coaching team deserve credit there for the proactive changes they were making. I wanted to highlight as well, there was a point in injury time, 93rd minute, I made a kind of mental note of it. We were 2-0 up, and Millwall had a free kick, left-hand side of our box. See big physical presences in the box, and I was sat there thinking, if this was late last season, I'd be a little bit more nervous here, because I'd be thinking they're going to score and then they'll come back in the next 4 minutes and score again, and who knows, they might get another one after that. But like we could bottle it from there. Today, I did not feel anywhere near as nervous at that point. I mean, I think the nerves were coming from me telling myself off and telling myself not to jinx us by thinking such a thing. But for what I could expect last season, I wouldn't have expected us to then go down the other end and score and add in the next 4 minutes to our total. So I think it is just highlighting the good work that's happening with the team, and I really don't want to kind of get carried away. But if we get more performances like that and more results like that, then yeah, I'm all aboard the Rob Edwards Express. metaphor coming to me as I'm watching a train going past out the window there. But yeah,
perfect.
I'd love to
perfect timing.
I know. Love to see more of that going forward.
Yeah, I thought it was a really, really, really good all-round performance, I would say. We definitely had to dig in the first half, and there were times where we did ride our luck a little bit. I think the one key moment that comes to mind was when Luke Ayling, he positioned himself perfectly, showing his experience. I think it was Denor's shot that he cleared off the line. I mean, it could be a completely different game if that was to go in. And obviously, Josh Coburn did us a solid when he managed to head it onto both posts. But yeah, other than that, I thought we had to weather the storm first half. We had to stick in there, make sure we didn't go behind, because that's when it could have got really difficult. But yeah, second half, it was just really good to see us, I think, improve in possession, but also out of possession. A lot of the things that Rob Edwards has been saying, I can start to see on the pitch. Like, he talks about his teams being really aggressive. I thought we were very aggressive second half. We actually managed to bully Millwall a little bit at the Den. We were winning our duels, winning the second balls. We took complete control of the game, which isn't easy to do in such an atmosphere like the Den. So I was starting to see that. He's also spoke a lot about, playing good football going forwards. That's been something we've not seen much of. I'm always more for seeing a team start by being just good at the back and building from the back, having solid foundations. We've definitely seen improvement, and I thought the back three were absolutely solid. Ayling, his reading of the game at times was really good. Dale Fry was an absolute, he was just solid at the back once again. But you want to also see us improve going forwards. And like Tom said, you expect to see that over time, but I didn't see us being as slick as what we were in possession at times. And it reminded me of what we saw of Boro last season. I sort of thought, yeah, we still do have them really good technical players who still can, produce really good moments on the pitch like that, and good quality. I thought the quality second half was really good too. So yeah, it's as good of an all-round team performance as you could probably get away from home in the Championship. So as you say, it's not one to get too carried away with, but if you want to sort of set the bar and set the standard for what we want to do in this league, especially away from home, I think that's definitely how you go about doing it.
Yeah, I thought we were really excellent in that second half in particular. I think, Tom, it was good that you mentioned effectively how we came out in the second half last season, where I think we'd see a drop off in performance level. This time it was much the opposite. We raised our performance level. We did flip the script a little bit, because at the start, probably the first 20 minutes of the first half, which was pretty dicey from Boro, Alfie Jones said after the game that we played into Millwall's hands, playing around at the back and kind of inviting that pressure on us. And then in the second half, we kind of took a leaf out of their book and we started to be really aggressive on them. And I really loved to see that. That second half performance was just immensely enjoyable. And also to keep a clean sheet, 3 goals without reply is mightily impressive. Ivanovic, their striker, who I think will be up there in the goal scoring charts this season, was limited to 0 shots on goal. They had just 1 shot on target, Millwall, and I think that's very impressive as well. I think the overriding positive is that we bounced back from the Doncaster game. So in terms of a reaction from what was a really quite cringeworthy, if not embarrassing, defeat, was, you want to see your team react when you have that knockback like that. And Boro did, and my God, they reacted in quite some fashion. It was just such an enjoyable game. Like, Boro grew into it, and then they just flourished in that second half performance. And I think if there was one thing that I would say I would have liked to have seen from that, it was Tommy Conway scoring. I think if Boro had their striker just get off the mark, it would have been really good to see that. Maybe it's coming for Conway soon. He was much more I wouldn't say much more, but he was more involved in the game than he was against Swansea. I don't think he could have got any less involved against Swansea, to be fair, but probably just one area I'd like to see not improve, but I just would have liked to have seen Tommy Conway score, to be honest. We've seen with Lighter Laugh last season how long it can go and how long it can play on the mind when a striker just keeps playing and keeps not finding the back of the net. But speaking of Tommy Conway, there was an incident in the first half where Whittaker played him through on goal, and full pelt, Tommy Conway, he goes down in the box, claiming a touch from the on-rushing goalkeeper, Stephen Bender. What was your guys' thoughts on that? Because it divided us slightly in our Facebook group chat. Do you think it was a penalty?
Initially, thought it was.
Same, actually.
I was looking at the referee thinking, when's he going to point to the spot? Then he points the other way and gets the card out. I was like, what are you playing at? I know in our group chat I kind of said otherwise, but like watching it back and watching it slowly, frame by frame, I don't think there's enough in it to say definitively either way. And that would be the only kind of thing that annoys me about today is the fact that he got a yellow card for that, because I think even going frame by frame, it's really, really hard to see if there was a touch or not. So to me, the referee's got to be 100% definitively sure that there was a touch to give a penalty. At the same time, he's got to be 100% definitively sure that there wasn't a touch and Conway dived to book him the way he did. And I mean, you look at the build-up to that, Conway had Tanganga all over the back of him and, potentially a touch from the goalkeeper as well. I don't see how, if you're the referee there, you can look at that and think, no, that was a clear and obvious dive. At the same time, looking at it frame by frame, I don't know if you can say definitively that he was touched or not. So for me, I would say probably, the ball had gone. You could probably give a goal kick there and it would be fair on everyone. But I did think the yellow card on Conway was unfair.
Yeah, honestly, when he went through and he went down and I saw the referee point the other way, my reaction was, what? Because I genuinely thought that it was a penalty. But then I looked at the replay and I was like, I think he's gone down before Bender kind of brushes his leg. And even that brush of the leg isn't enough contact to go down. So for me, I think he's looking for it. And I don't think it's a penalty. I mean, we're not asked in the end because it doesn't matter, but it was a point of discussion like during the game. But Matt, I think you had a similar opinion to me, didn't you?
Yeah, I didn't think it was enough to warrant a penalty. He did look like he was going down before the contact, if there even was much contact. And I think for me, when a referee is given a penalty, he needs to be 100% sure that it is a penalty. And I just don't feel like he can be 100% sure in that situation. So he either lets it go out for a goal kick or he blows the whistle and gives a booking for a dive. And I just think the safest, if he's not sure and he wants to sort of pick the safest outcome or the safest decision, I guess it is to book the forward rather than give a penalty that he's not 100% sure on. I mean, he could have let the ball go out for a goal kick, but then he probably would have Millwall players in his ear screaming that he's dived, why is he not booked? So it's one of them, but you just can't give a penalty unless you're sure. And unfortunately, well, I say unfortunately, it wasn't unfortunate in the end, but at the time, yeah, it didn't go our way. It was a shame to see Conway get booked. I will say that, because it's, you never want to see a player diving. But as Tom sort of said as well, I don't think it was a full-on dive either. I think he was going over. He did feel some contact, and maybe it was the slightest bit of contact, so he maybe tried to buy the penalty as opposed to diving. I think there's a grey area in between there somewhere where I think it falls within, but I don't think it was a penalty. But hey, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Who's asked? Doesn't matter in the end. Who needs a penalty? Matt, Sontje Hansen came on at half-time to make his Middlesbrough debut after having signed during the week. We do have a lowdown on Hansen if you do want to watch it still. I know we obviously saw 45 minutes of him today. But what did you make of his first cameo in red?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I very much enjoyed it. I was delighted when he come on at half-time. I instantly sort of sat forward in my seat and thought, oh, this will be interesting. Here we go. And I mean, yeah, 4 minutes in, he does that turn, and I sat forward even more, and I thought, oh, hello. And then when it resulted in a goal, I was like, well, obviously I jumped out my chair, but it was a great moment for him. I thought he was, I thought he was really good on the ball. It was kind of what we expected. He gave our front line a little bit more pace. I thought he was a bit more direct. He carried the ball really well. But another thing I really liked as well was there was points later on in the game where I can't recall who it was who won the ball back, but he was running forward and he basically had like 3 or 4 Millwall centre halves in front of him, and he basically had no support. And I thought a greedy player with maybe, selfish decision making might have thought, well, I'll try and take 2 or 3 on here, but he didn't. He held the ball up, he waited for his teammates, and then he laid off possession, and he made what I thought was a good, safe decision in that moment. And that's maybe a good sign of maybe the sort of in-game management that's being drilled into the players. If you're leading a game, don't try and do anything stupid, give the ball away. I really liked that moment where he went against doing something individual and just waited for a teammate, laid the ball off, played the right pass, I guess. And for a player who, we've seen a couple of fans from his former club say, is he said his attitude's this and that. Is he another Bergsorg? There's been a couple of sort of opinions flying around. It was good to see him make the correct decision in this game at times, but also really good to see him showing that little bit of flair. There was another moment as well where I think Satnafi did a little cheeky back heel as well.
He did.
One of the players around him. I can't recall who it was. So he's got confidence. He's got a little bit of flair. He's really good on the ball. He seems agile, and I thought his decision making was good. So in terms of a 45 minutes, I guess without scoring a goal himself, it's probably as good as we could have hoped for. So a really good, exciting option to bring off the bench for now. Whether he starts in future games, I'm not too sure yet, but a great player to bring off the bench, definitely.
That turn was so good. Like, to me, that turn of Hansen in the build-up to the goal is as good as like an assist. Like, that effectively creates the situation that then creates the goal, because he just sells, I think it's Jake Cooper, a dummy, to be honest. He sends him for a hot dog. And it was so good to see that little bit of individual quality from him. I know you said he didn't have his individual moments. He was more of a kind of team player, but that was an individual moment of quality from Hansen. And on his decision-making during the game, he is a very good link-up player. He definitely does like to distribute the ball to his teammates. He's a very involved forward player, and he likes to progress the play through just opting for the safer pass. I think he can take a player on. He's got the acceleration. He's very quick off the mark. And he's a very good dribbler. But yeah, it was good to see that, because to be honest, there was one point where I think it was probably what you mentioned, Matt. I was expecting him to take the man on, even though the avenue probably wasn't really open for him. But I sat up in my seat, and every time he got the ball, I did that. And I think that's such a great compliment of a player that has that kind of exciting trait within his game. But yeah, within that moment, it was just really calm, just waited for, I think it was Hackney to support, and he just kept the ball ticking, just kept the ball. Because I think for Boro, what you don't want is that turnover of possession. You get hit in behind, because we play with wing backs. As soon as you lose that ball, they're going to try and hit you behind Callum Britton and behind Sammy Silvera. So really important that Boro look after the ball in that system, because we could get pretty targeted. But I liked it. I thought it was a good decision from Rob Edwards to put Hansen on, because he's a good connector of play. I think he's somebody that can drift in those spaces between the lines and just offer something that's a little bit different to a profile that we have. He's pacey and he's direct. Silvera, to be fair, was also pacey and direct at points in that game, but he's more of a central threat in that regard. And I think it was a perfect option to bring off the bench, and the perfect decision from Rob Edwards to do that. And speaking of that, Tom, Edwards' subs did make a big difference during that game. You spoke previously about wanting more influence during games on the touchline. Were you happy to see that today?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And you know what, to a lesser extent, I think we saw it on Tuesday as well. Obviously, it didn't work as well on Tuesday. But, there was a point in our group chat on Tuesday night where it was me and you, Dan. We were both on about the wing backs and saying, I wish they'd remember that they are wing backs and they're supposed to be getting up and help cross the ball. after half time, it was pretty much immediately after I saw Callum Britton bombing forward and looking to get a crossing. So, and then we've seen similar today and I think it actually went under the radar, the change at half time, because I mean I try not to look at my phone while the match is going on, but I didn't see anyone really kind of talking about that come full time, and I look at it and I think, when was the last time we saw a player substituted at half time, bar an injury or something like that? When did we ever see it for tactical reasons? And as I mentioned, Rob Edwards came out afterwards and explained the reasons behind it. But, we made that change at halftime. We seemed to have a definite shift in mentality when we came out for the second half. And then I just think the subs throughout the second half, they were proactive, and they were for reasons, and they weren't just like for like. They were trying to make an impact on the game. And, how many times last season did we talk about, Carrick being reactive, but other managers making subs, trying to have an impact on the game? And for me, it's a really, really important part of in-game management, and I'm just kind of really happy to see it. And I think also to a lesser extent, because this doesn't necessarily mean everything, but how animated Rob Edwards can be on the touchline, throwing instructions out that he's either getting himself or he's getting from the coaching staff and taking tips from them. I just feel like he is already being a lot more kind of animated and trying to get his point across than what we've seen for the last few seasons. So happy with how that's going at the moment. Hopefully that continues as well.
Yeah, on the change at half-time as well, just because obviously I mentioned Hansen there when we were focusing on him, but also moving Hayden Hackney back and just regaining that control from midfield. That's what Rob Edwards mentioned after the game. That was his explanation for that. I also want to keep the focus on Hackney because he was changed, like his position changed. He was moved further forward into that number 10 position. And I think that decision to move Hackney forward into one of those supporting creative roles and then to have Kante alongside Morris was actually the right one. I know Kante, he wasn't bad, really wasn't bad, but I think sometimes he struggled. Sometimes his touch was a little bit off. Sometimes his passing was a little bit off. It's understandable. He's a young player in a new country. He needs time to bed in. But I still think that it was the right call from Rob Edwards before the game. I think in the first two games of the season against Swansea and Doncaster, Boro have conceded far too much space in and around the midfield. The gap between the midfield two and the forward line has been far too big. And we've opened the door for Swansea and Doncaster. Swansea didn't take advantage of it, but Doncaster did. Hackney, I think, has a really good blend of attributes between a number 8 and a number 10. So that's why I can understand why he was played further forward. He's creative and technical on the ball. And that's why I think he can play that role as more of a creative player. But he can contribute off the ball as well. When Boro were out of possession against Millwall, I didn't see a porous midfield. A lot of the problems that we encountered in the first 20 minutes was through playing out from the back and inviting that press on the defensive line. But I didn't see a porous, gaping hole in our midfield. And it was because the setup was like a 5-3-2 or a 5-3-1-1, depending on Whittaker's position. It just plugged the gap. It gave that extra man in midfield, and we weren't giving up so much space for teams to target. So that's why I think it was a good and right decision from Rob Edwards. It just shows that he obviously identified that problem against Doncaster in particular and responded to it, reacted to it, gave us something that was effectively a remedy to that issue. So I was really happy with that change before the game, and I was happy that it gave us a little bit of a better play during the match. So that's a massive tick in the box, and big credit to Rob Edwards for that. Matt, we have spoken enough on this podcast about our reservations around Boro and what this side may struggle with. But did today show what Boro can be capable of, essentially the good of this team?
I very much hope so. When I saw Edwards come through the door, my hope was that, and I've alluded to this already, that we'd take what was good about this team previously and improve the areas where we were weak. And I think so far we've maybe not seen Boro's more gifted, technically gifted players flourish under him, and we've not seen us be as creative as we'd have liked. And obviously, that is part of, I guess, the transition process from one style to another. There are going to be teething problems. I mean, for me, I wanted to see us build from the back and start by having a solid base first and foremost, and then we can hopefully build, a good offensive line from that. And I think we've seen so far that in the league, at least, even if we're not quite on it going forwards, and I think Hackney even alluded to this, maybe in Hackney, one of the players did, or maybe it was Alfie Jones, after the game, they did allude to having that really good base to fall back on if needed. And I don't think we had that before under Michael Carrick. I think it was very much, we just tried to outscore the opposition. If we conceded 2 goals, we'd try and score 3. If we conceded 1, we'd try and score 2. It was attack first, building from the front first, I guess. But it's good to see that we've got that base to fall back on, that solid platform first and foremost. And if we can build on that, and then we can get our top forward players to flourish and show what they can do and express themselves, and that's almost a bonus for me. So far, yeah, no goals conceded in the league. I can't recall what the XG was that Swansea had. I know Millwall's was very limited. You mentioned the number of shots on target. Don't think Bryn's had to do much in either of the league games. So I'm really glad that we are starting to see that really solid backbone first and foremost, a solid defence, because that's where you build from there. And if we're now going to start putting some goals in at the other end on top of that, then that's the perfect combination, I guess. So yeah, it's good to see that. I trust this team. I trust this team a little bit more. I am more reassured that if we're not on it going forwards, we at least hopefully won't let too many in going backwards. But if we see improvements going forward like we did second half, then brilliant. It's hopefully going to be the perfect blend of what we had good before and hopefully what Edwards is, I guess, improving with the team now.
You are starting to trust this Middlesbrough team more, Matt. Jesus, we really are improving, aren't we?
It's a dangerous game.
It is. I was going to say, the time that I start trusting this Middlesbrough team, it shows that we're on to something good. But speaking of good, let's go to the praise and place. Yes, the praise and place is back for 25-26. And there's, to be fair, plenty of praise to be dished out today. You two, we'll start with you, Tom. Who gets in your praise and place this week?
I think because there was that many who could potentially, there's a case for them being in the praise and place. I'm doing mine in my kind of NHL 3 stars format. So third star, it is a toss-up between Luke Ayling and Alfie Jones. Leaning more towards Luke Ayling there, but I just think both of them today, when called upon, were fantastic. We've mentioned the aggression from Middlesbrough. I think when there was a ball to be won, when there was a 50-50 there, they'd fly into it. And it was great to see today, and especially at the Den as well against Millwall. So it's got to be one of them two. Like I say, leaning more towards Ayling. But speaking of never losing a tackle, the second star would be Aidan Morris. I just felt like he was everywhere today. Passing was absolutely, fine and great from him as well. But what I really, really noticed from Morris today was, the ground he covered and the balls he was winning back. And then first star would be his midfield partner for the second half, Hayden Hackney. I just thought it was great performance from him today, and capped off with a goal. And to be fair, took some bottle to go over and celebrate in front of the Millwall fans the way he did as well. When he did that, I was looking at it thinking, oh God, please don't let this come back to bite us, because I remember Conway away at Bristol City last year. So, yeah, fair enough for having the bottle to do that, and not letting it jinx the team for the second half.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I've got quite a few. I agree with Hackney and Morris. I can't really say much more about both of them too. Morris was just everywhere. I mean, it was one of his best Boro performances. He's just got one hell of an engine on him, hasn't he? He's such a fantastic midfielder, and Hackney is just a step above this league. I have got Ayling in there as well. I could have put Jones in too, but I just think with Luke Ayling, a lot of question marks coming into this season about where he fits. Would he even play? I think we all probably thought one of the centre-half positions was one of the places where he probably would be best playing, but even then, would he start? But I think he's had a really good, solid start to the season. His reading of the game, I think, has been really, really impressive. You know, if he hasn't maybe got the pace or the recovery pace he once did have, and that's probably why wing-back just isn't the position for him. But I think as a centre-half, he's got the game in front of him. He can see it. He can read it. And I thought, yeah, his positioning at times and some of the tackles he won. You know, there were some moments where if he was a second late to some of the challenges on like Aziz, for example, they could have been down our right-hand side and we could have been in trouble, but he was there and he won his tackles. I put Hansen in there as well just because, you know, some say Jake Cooper is still in a swivel looking for him. He still doesn't know where Hansen is. It may be he'll never find him either, but that turn was amazing and I just loved his debut. As well. So, and yeah, I'm going to put Sammy Silvera in just because, again, for a player who has had a pretty torrid, you know, last couple of loan spells last year or so, to come back into this team in a position, I know we've said it already, but in a position he's not used to, stepping up and saying, I can do a job, even if it's temporary. I think he's been great. He really has, you know, done himself no harm in terms of, you know, at least being in this squad and proving that he can offer something to us. So just the character of Sammy and how he's sort of come back, I love to see that from players. So, you know, huge credit to Sammy again. He put in another really good shift. And I thought he was better defensively actually than maybe what he was against Swansea. So there's my praise and place.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Hayden and Aiden. I love them too together. I really, really do. I know that for the start of the game anyway, they didn't play alongside each other like we've been used to, but even just them like working off each other, with one of them, obviously Hackney, slightly more advanced, still so good. Like Morris was fucking amazing in that second half, like absolutely excellent. He's always available for a pass. And then when he takes the ball in, it's always, first thought is, how can I progress this play up the pitch? Boro have been really marred, I would say, by too many midfielders over our championship years that just do nothing. Like, they take the ball, they spin. Where's the pass? There's no pass. Let me just give it back to centre-back and we'll maybe hoof the ball along from there. With Morris and Hackney, you've got two pieces of the jigsaw there that are constantly moving, constantly interchanging, constantly offering up a ball and a pass just to connect the play. And again, like out of possession, just the aggression really came from Morris in that second half in particular. And I think he was winning those 50-50s. He was winning the ball back for Boro. And then again, when he wins the ball back, his first thought is, how can I get this play moving forward? I am going to make a prediction that Aidan Morris will likely not be at Middlesbrough after the season. I think that if a Premier League club are wanting somebody that can just receive the ball on the half turn, play the ball forward, and also give that energy and give that aggression off the ball, Aidan Morris is right there. I hope we could keep him for a long time because I bloody love him. But he is a top talent for me, and he's got the physicality as well. That's really, really important. So Aidan Morris and Hayden Hackney. Hayden Hackney is by far Middlesbrough's best player. If we keep him, then my God, I don't know what luck that we've managed to stumble on there. I really hope that we can. But I want to put them two in there. I also want to mention Ayling's clearance. I know we've spoken about Ayling, but I want to really focus on the clearance that he made when Millwall were in the ascendancy. They were piling a bit of pressure on us, and Casper Denau's shot was going in, and Luke Ayling in the right place at the right time. If that goes 1-0 Millwall, their crowd are right up for it. And I don't know, this isn't me saying that we wouldn't have, I genuinely don't know how Boro would have dealt with that. I don't know if they would have kind of crumbled from there. Certainly last season we probably would have. But like that was such an important moment of the game. So credit to Luke Ayling for that. really vital piece of defensive contribution there. I also want to praise Rob Edwards for what I mentioned, his changes before the game, during the game, proactive, seeing the problems, rectifying them, really good. And yeah, I want to put Sammy Silvera in there because, God, how good is it to see him just take his man on and attack the space behind the fullback? That is what I've wanted to see from him. Like, when he cuts inside and shoots, it's not a power play, but what a power play is for Sammy Silvera, because he's quick off the mark, and I think he's actually decent when he's one-on-one. It's attacking the fullback. It's getting into the space behind where it opens up the pitch and it opens up the chance to cross the ball into the box. Hats off to him, because I've been very, 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 very critical and actually very unfair on Sammy Silvera. And I think that, like, the game today and also his start to the season, love to see it. When a player is kind of maligned, all you want to see is a reaction. All you want to see is that redemption arc. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we're on that road to a redemption arc. We spoke a little bit about Hayden Hackney there. This is an open question for all of us. Do we think that we'll keep hold of Hayden Hackney this summer? Greg did ask us a question on whether we think that there's a chance. Obviously, he turned down a move to Ipswich, probably the right thing to do, honestly. But do you reckon we'll keep Hayden Hackney?
I think it just depends who comes in. I think Hackney turning down the move to Ipswich has maybe shown that he's got his sights set high, and if it was someone at the same level as Boro, I think he'd prefer to play for Boro. Probably unsurprisingly, being local lads, us being his team. That being said, if, say, Man United came in or another low half Premier League team come in for him, that was a joke for any stray United fans watching, but like if United came in for him with the history that club has, and obviously it's one of the biggest clubs of the world in the world, if not the biggest, I could see him wanting to go and test himself at that level. And I could also see it if it was like a top Bundesliga club or something like that. But him turning down Ipswich has made me think, like, are there potentially clubs in the Premier League he would turn down to stay here? And I think potentially there might be, if it was someone who wasn't kind of projected to do well this year. So I'd say there's a chance, but it's going to be a tense next couple of weeks up to deadline day.
I really hope we keep him. I think if we'd not sold Rav van den Berg, then there might be a chance, because I think the understanding is one of them has to have gone to fund our transfer business. One of them has gone now, and thankfully, I guess it's the one that was, no disrespect to Rav, the more replaceable of the two. So I pray that means we don't need to sell him. So it is a case of just sitting and waiting. I loved his post-match interview when he said, he didn't just say scoring a goal is the best feeling in the world. He specifically said scoring for my hometown club is the best feeling in the world. And my heart just went, oh, please don't leave. I genuinely do believe he is desperate to be a Premier League player with Middlesbrough. And I think he's still clinging on to that very, very small hope and possibility, hence why he didn't move to another club in the Championship. And I respect him so much for that, because we're seeing it a lot nowadays. Footballers will use their power to just get a move, whether it's because they want to be paid more or whatever it is, and they sort of disregard what the current club's done for them. And the fact Hackney turned down Ipswich, I thought was a real sign of respect to us as a club. If a Premier League club comes, I wouldn't begrudge him at all. But I guess it depends on if it's the right one for him. I think the one issue we've got is Premier League clubs now know what bid we'd accept, because we did take the £20 million package that Ipswich put forth to us. So a Premier League club knows that we would say yes to that, and they probably can just throw that money at us whenever they want. So I've got a horrible feeling that a bid like that will drop late in the window. I feel like he probably is second, third, fourth choice for a few Premier League clubs, and they will get down to him at some point, and a bid will come in. And that's when Boro have got a real decision to make, and I guess Hackney as well. My other worry is if not now, maybe it'll be January anyway. And I'm sort of thinking, well, would I like that either? Because I'm sort of scarred by the Lath saga that we had last year when he, of course, went late in January and it just dragged on and just got a little bit messy. So would you rather him go now if he's going to go, rather now than January? Probably, because I don't think he'd be here all season. But I still just hope and pray that by some miracle there is a scenario to which he is here for the rest of the season and it somehow ends up being a success. So my heart says he'll stay, but my head says a Premier League club will come in and swoop him from underneath us very late in the window. So yeah, head versus heart.
Somebody needs to lock that man in at Rockcliffe. Like, we just can't let him leave. Other than for the games, obviously. But I think he is a superb talent, and I reckon Boro's best player. In fact, I really believe Boro's best player. You made a good point there, Matt, about Rav van den Berg leaving. And I think it probably puts Boro in a really powerful position in terms of negotiations because we don't have to sell. I think there was maybe this idea, I don't know if it's ever been confirmed, that Boro maybe needed to sell one of their assets this summer. Rav's gone now. Hackney's still here. Boro are in a really good position to probably ask for more money and to really hit that value up for Hayden Hackney. But taking that aside, I really don't want him to leave. I think he's just a super player for this team. He just fits the way that any team would want to play perfectly because he's so progressive. Ultimately, every manager, even Tony Bloody Pulis, wants to play the ball forward. He wants to get the ball basically in and around the box. And Hayden Hackney helps you with that, with his ball carrying, his ball progression. It's absolutely fantastic. So if we can keep him, that is a big just thing for Boro in this transfer window. And arguably, I would say Boro's best piece of business. But I do feel like he probably will get snatched by a Premier League team much later on in the window. But I'm with you, Matt. If he does go, I'd rather him go this summer than in January, because mid-season losing such an integral player to this team would be a real killer, I think. Final piece of the praise in place puzzle from a question from Liv to me, just asking, is Sammy slowly changing your thoughts on him? He's doing so well, deserves the praise. Honestly, Liv, baby steps, I would say, but I do want to give him major credit for particularly the game today. I think what would really do it for me is seeing that consistency, seeing that end product. There's still question marks over that left wing back role, I think, because Boro, with the bid for Max Arfston getting rejected from Columbus Crew, remains to be seen if we're going to go back in for him. But I do feel like they're still going to look at that left wing back role. But long may it continue with Sammy Silvera. As I said, when a player's chips are down and when he goes out on loan to Portsmouth and really struggles, and Blackpool and really struggles, and he comes back to Middlesbrough and he has that starting berth, all you want to see is good performances. You want to see, first and foremost, graft and effort, and you want to see quality as well. And I think we're starting to see the quality from Sammy Silvera, who has changed his game up, as I mentioned, much better, much prefer seeing him take his man on, go on the outside rather than shift it in on the inside and try that shot that usually hits Jonny and Matt in rows out of the North Stands. So yeah, very positive. So hopefully, fingers crossed, he can just continue that. But let's move on now. Podcast questions. It is podcast questions. You know where to find us. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. You could get us on email as well, theborobreakdown@hotmail.com. The first question is from Flo. He asks, was this second half so much a result of Boro performing better or more Millwall falling off? He also says, greetings from Munich. So I don't know who wants to take this one. Tom, do you want to take it? Were Boro better in the second half, or was it more Millwall falling off?
I think it was Boro being better in the second half. I don't think it's unfair to say that either. I didn't notice a drop-off from Millwall in the second half. What I did notice was us playing a lot better, us being a lot sharper with our passing and creating more opportunities. So I think for me, I mean, there's been times in the past where, you know, it would have been easy to kind of say it was the other way around and, you know, we benefited. No, I think it was genuinely like we've came out fired up for the second half. We've made changes that have impacted the game. We've continued to do that through the second half. And a lot of things clicked into place for us. So I honestly think it was a really, really good performance from Boro's second half.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I will say that Millwall's press definitely was diminished in the second half. How much of that was them just maybe tiring or opting to just be a little bit more conservative? Because simply put, like, you can't really go through a whole game just pressing and doing that continuously, especially the way that they were. There has to be some I know you have to be economic with it, I suppose, so you don't tire yourselves out and run yourselves into the ground. But I do think that Boro in that second half, especially with the halftime change, was crucial. Just putting Hackney back in the middle, having him and Hayden do their thing, but also Hansen just working in those pockets of space, which I saw him pull into. It's a big part of his game. Just giving that that outlet for a threat, pace, directness, really important, I think. And the game opened up. The game opened up in the second half, and I think that with Hansen in particular, a big thing with him is attacking those spaces, taking the ball in little pockets and trying to work with that. So I think that an open game, I definitely think suited Boro. First half, Billy Mitchell was, I'm not going to say it in a Millwall accent, but you know, Tom, I'm saying it in my head. But Billy Mitchell, I think in the first half was very influential as to Millwall's performance. But I think that definitely waned in the second half because Boro really stepped up. So major, massive credit to Boro in that second half. I think that it was the second half that deserved the victory. And ultimately, that's what we got. Second question, final question actually, from Danny. He asks, do you think we looked more balanced in this game? Matt, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, definitely in the second half, I would say so. As I said, I'd always like a team that's defensively sound first and foremost, but second half, as you mentioned, the shift to getting Hackney in the midfield was pivotal. We were able to control the game from there. You alluded to the gaps as well. Earlier, we seemed to really sort of block out that central area of the pitch. I thought the wing backs were really good defensively too, and even if Millwall got beyond them, you know, Ayling and Jones were clearing up everything behind them anyway. So we covered Millwall regardless of if they were trying to get down the sides, through the middle, whether they were using their physical lads, or they brought Macaulay Longstaff on, who I thought might offer a bit more of a threat in behind, but we dealt with that as well. So I think just the overall control of the game was really good, and even the 10s were effective. As we mentioned, you know, Hansen made an impact. Azaz, it's fantastic to see him back. His ball over the top for Bergsog was absolutely delightful. It was just great to see Finn Azaz back, and I love the new look, by the way. He's gone with a goatee this season, which is interesting.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, there's something different with Finn Azaz's face. I was like, he's cut like half his beard off. It's just gone. He's rocking the goatee now. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, he's entering his goatee era, and he's maybe it's going to make him the GOAT. I don't know, but yeah, I thought we were much more balanced. It was great to see. I think we had like one shot first half, none on target, and I think we finished with 12 shots and 5 on target. So it was good to see us remain defensively solid, limit Millwall, but then also be a very good threat going forward. And obviously we put them to the sword and we were very clinical as well. So it's the perfect balance. We always want to strike it. We probably won't get it right every game, but I thought second half it was as good as it gets, really.
Perfect balance and the perfect afternoon for Boro. I just want to mention as well the balance point against Swansea. I think we were better out of possessions. Well, the defensive line anyway. The back five, I think, in terms of recovery defending, was very good, but we obviously didn't have that threat from open play at the other end, and I think there was a slight imbalance there. Obviously, it didn't matter in the end because it got us the win. But this one, I think we weighed the scales, or balanced the scales, a little bit more with being solid at the back, and then also offering a threat in possession on the attack. So, yeah, we want to see more of that, Boro. So hopefully, when we are recording again next Sunday, we can speak a lot more positively. But before we wrap up, as I mentioned at the top of the show, this is the 300th episode of the Boro Breakdown podcast. Since we started recording in 2018, it wouldn't be right, really, if we concluded this episode without giving the microphone over to the guy that started it all in his bedroom with his little blue snowball microphone. So we're going to give the last word to Jonny, and we will be back in your ears on Sunday. So take care.
Hello, guys. Sorry I can't be with you tonight, but I just wanted to jump on to say a big thank you to everyone who's listened to us over the last 300 episodes of the Boro Breakdown. The pod itself has been a huge part of my life over the last few years, and it's only really been the only constant, I would say, in a whirlwind of 5 or 6 years we've been doing it. The pod itself was only really made for me to learn more about the game, but to chat about the team that I love and also build some fantastic friendships that I've got with Dee, Tom, Matt and Elliot as well. And, you know, this pod's helped us do all of that, but also land so many great opportunities, you know, working with BBC, Sky Sports, ITV, League 72, Sky Bet, etc. And also it helped us win an award as well. And, you know, winning the best in Championship and third in the EFL was just a dream come true for us. But also this pod's allowed us to get opportunities within the game as well. And that's just been a dream come true to me on top of the work that we do outside of the pod as well, full time. So a massive thank you from me. We've had over 400,000 views on YouTube over the last couple of years, 800,000 downloads on Apple and Spotify. And 95% of you have came back to listen to us one point or another. And I think that for me is a certified, yes, this pod can actually do some really good things and people like to listen to us. So thank you very much for listening to us. Thank you very much for sharing, subscribing and listening to us speak shit for the last 5 or 6 years. Here's to a few hundred more. And thank you very, very much from my heart. Thank you so much for listening to us. Well, this has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was our Boro Match Day chat in a pod. Speak to you soon. Up the board.